Hello, BookShark BootCamp. It is Wednesday already, August 27th. This is week 9, your bonus week. And so we went through weeks 1 through 8, starting in the beginning of July. If you are brand new to boot camp, I want to welcome you. We're so happy that you're here. Want to encourage you to go back to the guide tab, which is underneath our banner on our Facebook page that you're a part of or you're watching this from. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you go back to the first week so that you can get a really good understanding of how to set up your BookShark curriculum, what to expect for the entire year. We have a PDF for you to be able to print off a paper calendar if you'd like to use that as you're scheduling your year out and creating your roadmap for what your year with BookShark is going to look like. I'm your community manager, Jana, and today is probably one of my favorite sessions because I get to talk about things that are applicable to homeschool in general. And while I love BookShark and have been using it faithfully with my children for 9 years, and I was myself homeschooled, 8th through 12th grade, there are things about homeschool life and really just life and parenting in general that I like to talk about because I feel like I want to make sure that we don't put on our rose colored glasses or fall into Pollyanna syndrome that just because you made a choice to do something for your children, their education, something that you felt really passionate about, that things are just going to magically fall into place because we at Bookshark and especially in this boot camp want to be very real with you. So know that I myself have homeschooled. My youngest is 16 and she is now doing dual enrollment. So she's just doing online college courses through the community college. So we are done with BookShark. We are done homeschooling with the curriculum. But I have 9 years of experience with not only my youngest, who did all 9 years, but also my older two who are now in college and they did 5th through 8th grade. So, between myself and Tanya, who has 5, she has graduated 4. She is also with her youngest. We have the same age for our youngest. We have Sharon on here, who has 2, and they, I believe, are 12 and 13, 11 and 13, I think, doing levels F and G currently. She's a great resource. She's on here. Sharon is constantly encouraging you guys and answering those questions for you. We also have in our group a few other reps who you might have met if you came out to any of the conventions throughout the summer where BookShark attended. But we have Jimena, we have Sarah. Sometimes Rachel is still in here. Rachel is also part of Homeschooling with BookShark, which is a Facebook page that is not affiliated with BookShark, but a lot of us are in there so that we can help get those questions answered. But we really just want to build community, especially if you are first year using our product, whether it's your first year to homeschool or just your first year to BookShark. That is why this bootcamp was created. This is our last weekly live session. In September, we're going to move to monthly live. I get excited about that because I love having guests come on and chat with me. Although, as you can tell, I could talk for hours and hours just to the camera, knowing that I was feeling like I was sitting across from you and speaking you to directly as if we were having coffee in my living room. I really do enjoy having the guests come on. I want you guys to hear different voices. I get sick of my own voice, but also different perspectives, because what worked for me in my house and my family doesn't mean it's the formula for everybody's homeschool. So September, we're going to have Sarah Hercules. She is from Herculean Homeschool. She is one of our reps. She works for the company and she has been using BookShark in her homeschool for, I think, at least 10 years, something like that. So we'll get more of that when she comes on in September. If you guys have a guest that you would like me to bring on to talk about something or a topic that you'd like talked about in the coming months, please let me know. We want to know that you have a space to ask questions and to be heard. And while I'm not an expert of anything, honestly, I feel like I'm the jack of all trades and master of none. I am so willing to reach out and research and find those answers for you. So whether it's BookShark related, where we have connections with the product development and the experts in the product, or homeschool related, we want to make sure that you feel like you're getting the support that you need to make your homeschool journey this year the best. Now, that being said, I am going to start by just saying that timing throughout your day is it's going to look different for everybody. So whether you have early risers, you start in the morning and you're done by noon, by lunchtime, yay, hurrah. You are going to find that some days work that way, and then you think you finally got a rhythm, and then a wrench gets thrown into it. So my biggest tip for all of us homeschool parents is just be flexible. I had put out a survey last week, maybe 2 weeks ago now, about the thing that's on your mind that might keep you up at night as you start thinking about this year of homeschooling, about what you're choosing to do with your children's education. And the number one concern from both groups, from our new group, which is Bootcamp 25, and our alum group, which has been around since 2021, the concern is finding enough hours in the day. So I want you to know that I heard and see that that is the biggest concern right now for our group. So Sarah and I are actually going to tackle that in September when she comes on in 2 weeks and we do our live. So I hope you guys have some questions ready for us, and that and I hope we have some great tips to help you guys feel like you're going to get a handle on how to get it all done, that you don't have to go through the next 36 weeks or 9 months feeling like there isn't enough time in the day. Because while quite honestly, we feel that way as adults, whether we homeschool or not, I want to make sure that you guys don't have to feel that as you're homeschooling. So we're going to have tips and tricks for that. I do want to share with you, I'm going to pull this up on my screen. So hopefully you can see that. We have these recommended daily times for our subjects. And it used to be on our website, and I would say, go to the website and see what level you're doing and get the estimated time. We switched websites, and right now that's not on there. So I put it up on the screen for you to look at. I'm also going to put it in the post so that you have a place to reference it. These daily time requirements are what we average for each level if you were doing an all subject package. So keep that in mind. If you are at a level A and you are working through that with a 5, 6, or 7-year-old, we expect that it should take about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get through all four of those subjects. Now, that does not mean that if you start your timer at 10, you're going to be done at noon, because we all know that our kids just are not going to sit for 2 hours and be diligent and get it done start to finish. Some might, maybe you have that kid, or maybe you have a day where your kid is super motivated. But I want you to think in terms of time as you're working through the subjects, okay? So we have level A, 1.5 to 2 hours, level B, 2 to 3 hours, level C, 2 to 3 hours. Then you have level D, 3.5 to 4.5 hours. Then when you get to level F, which we are saying is age 10 through 13, all the way up through high school, you definitely can plan on 4 to 6 hours for your student to be working through. So keeping in mind, it's 4 days a week, okay? And that is for all 4 subjects. That might help you get a better gauge as to what your days will look like as you are creating that template, whether you've started or you've decided to kind of reevaluate how things are going. It's a great way for you guys to have just a gauge on how to set up your day. Again, I'm going to take this and make sure that we put it in our post so that you have access to it so you can see it again. It might be really helpful as you are starting to get a rhythm. Homeschooling. So important for you just to have a moment, 30 minutes to an hour, to yourself, to get an idea of what is going to be covered for the week to come. Nobody likes to be caught off guard, and really just dedicating that little amount of time, whether you do it on Sunday night or Monday morning or however you choose to do it. Just like your children, you are using something that you've never used before. So there's very little reference for what you're seeing right now, and you yourself might be feeling overwhelmed. I want to encourage you to read back through sections 1, 3, and 4, and then take the time each week to get familiar with what you're going to be going over. It's fully planned. So you don't have to do any, but I'm covering for the week so that if something does cause you maybe some anxiety, or it causes you to think, I have no idea what that means, or I'm not sure how to do that, gives you time to either email us and ask us for some either clarification or suggestions, or do a little bit of your own research so that you feel prepared. You can probably remember the difference in a classroom for a teacher who was prepared and for maybe a substitute who was just handed something and had to just get through the hours until the end of the day. So I want to encourage you, for an amazing journey to really make sure that you set aside that time and prep so that you have a good understanding of what's going on. Now, another thing I want to talk about that we haven't really touched on is called blocking subjects. If you went to college, you think about how you only had class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or I had a class that was like 3 hours on Monday nights. It was American history, and I absolutely loved it. But not everybody wanted to take a 3 hour class on Monday night. So when you think about blocking your subjects, some people like to only do history instead of doing it 4 days a week, which I preferred to break it up like that, the way the curriculum prescribed it. Some only liked to do it 2 or 3 days. It makes for a lot of reading. So I would be very careful, at least with history. Where I would say that blocking subjects really helps is science. If you're finding that history, language arts, and math is taking you longer as you're getting an understanding of how the program works and that science is either getting pushed off or not done, I would say maybe spend Fridays doing science. You can certainly take an hour of your day and go through all 4 days of the curriculum to get the week done, or do science 2 days a week instead of 4 days a week. It's very bite-sized piece. And so, especially in the younger levels, it's easy to block out the subjects like that, where your math and history probably need to be done every single day. I would say in my household, the language arts and the science, we blocked out and only did twice a week. So we doubled up each day. Now, that might work for you and it might not, but it's just a suggestion. Also, remember the 20-10 rule, the 45-15, depending on how you're going to use it. So let's say one subject at the younger levels, you're going to work for 20 minutes and then you're going to give them that 10-minute break. That might be enough to get done with just that first subject, depending on which one it is. So maybe you will get it done in one block, especially if you're doing the 45-15 for the upper middle school and high school kids. You definitely can dedicate that 45 minutes to one subject and then be done. Now, if you find that you're going to need 2 blocks, so let's say for the younger ones, you do the 20-10, you take a break, you actually need to go back to that subject and do another 20 minutes. That's 2 blocks of time for that subject. I hope that is helpful. I hope that makes sense. But I would say that as you're working through, just keeping these ideas in mind to help your day have a better rhythm to it, to feel like you are accomplishing the things that you set out to accomplish each and every day. Nobody likes to get to the end of the week and be like, we did nothing. Where did the time go? Now, if you are super regimented, that is not even a thought in your mind. You've got this. You know how to schedule. You're great at time management. Other people, they don't, it's not even necessarily time management. It's just they don't even really know how long things are going to take. So this is a great way for you to just start thinking in terms of the time requirement for the subjects for your child's age, and then blocking them into days or hours, and then making sure that you give those periodic breaks so that your children know, whether you're setting a timer, however you're doing it, they know that even if something's hard, they're going to be able to have a stop. They're going to be able to do either a fun brain break or body movement, and then they're going to have time to get back into it, knowing that there's an end to the hard stuff. Everybody needs to know that there's going to be an end to the hard stuff. All right. That's a great way to motivate your kids. Another thing that I would encourage you to do if you're struggling at all with either the read alouds or the independent readers is break it up. Break it up into morning and the evening. Break it up into breakfast and lunch. So when you're doing the read alouds, we have prescribed chapters for you to do, and then discussion questions, and then possibly some geography with it. You could read half in the morning, half after lunch, and then do the geography when you're finished up with your day. There's just so many ways that you can use our curriculum. That is why we don't prescribe that you start at 8:30 and you do this subject and you have to be done by 9:30 and then you better do this subject. There's so much freedom in homeschool, but sometimes it's the very freedom that gets people overwhelmed. So I want you to hear me say that if you need to be a little bit more regimented in your homeschool, especially in the beginning, that is fine. You are learning a new way of doing something. If you're listening to me and you're like, I don't need that advice, that's also fine. You've got it down. You have a way that's going to work for you and your family. And I think that's amazing. And I'm excited to hear how you're implementing that in your family. Um, let's see. Oh, the other thing is, especially with like the independent readers. For the younger levels, like if you need to have them read aloud, like that is the way that they are going to learn, or that's what is prescribed in the curriculum, maybe have them FaceTime grandma or grandpa, or have time where an aunt comes over or an older sibling and they read to each other. You don't have to do everything as the parent. There is nothing wrong with recruiting help. It's really good for older students to help with younger students. We did that back in my day when I went to school. We had eighth graders come down to the kindergarten room, and the kindergartners got to read to the eighth graders. It's great intergenerational learning. And that is something that I think is really important as we get out into the real world, to be able to communicate with people who are not the same age, who do not have the same interest as us. And it's beautiful family bonding. So recruit and get the help where and when you need it. All right. Not everything rests upon your shoulders. I know it feels that way, especially in the beginning, but you certainly can ask for help. There are co-ops that you can join. There are ways where if maybe you have a friend or a family member who is doing homeschool, maybe not even the same thing as you, but you guys can switch off and help each other out. And community is a beautiful thing, especially in homeschool. All right, back to science. We sometimes did the experiments, all four for the month, in one day. So you could have an experiment. Like I always used Fridays, but because that was the day my husband was actually off during the week, and I was like, "Here you go, science is yours. I've got enough on my plate." You can always do it on Saturdays as a family. You don't have to do it in the 4 days that it's prescribed. I just want to make that very clear. So much flexibility. Now, remember, reset when necessary for either your child or yourself. Quick walk around the block, a quick moment to yourself, a quick disconnect from the environment. Put your earbuds in, listen to your favorite jam. Mine happens to be the 90s, a little bit of a grunge. So anything that's going to just kind of ground you, and just take a moment when things get heated, when you get frustrated, when your kids are frustrated, when it seems like you guys are speaking different languages, especially when it comes to those tougher subjects. I want you guys to have permission to just stop, time out, reset, come back together, and start over. All right. It works wonders. Let me tell you, it has worked wonders in my family. So also use the seasons to your advantage, depending on where you are at. We are on the East Coast and we're technically the South. And so it stays pretty warm. We can get outside most of the year. But those who can't, spend as much time as you can outside or bundle up when it's cold. I want to encourage you guys. I've been listening to 1,000 Hours Outside podcast. Jenny Urich, she actually was on our podcast, Homeschool Your Way, a couple of years ago. And there is just amazing to see the science behind getting outside, getting some fresh air, resetting your brain, letting things organize in a different way. I want to encourage you, don't forget that just because you're homeschooled doesn't mean you have to stay inside your house. Do it outside. When it's sunny, get out there, get to the park, take a break and run to the pool. I mean, that's easier said than done. Obviously, I have teenagers, so they can do that and come back and get right back into it. That might not be so accessible if you've got little ones, but finish early so you can get to the pool, motivate your kids with the things that they love, and don't forget about the seasons, all right? Now I'm going to talk more about this particular subject when I'm on with Sarah in September. But you guys, planning is a lifesaver in our house, not only as a mom, as a working mom, as a homeschool working mom. Meal planning has been great for our budget. There's nothing worse in my mind than getting done with a long day and going, now I have to figure out how to feed everybody. Okay. So meal plan, meal prep. I am not a crock pot everyday kind of gal. I grew up in the Midwest, but that's kind of not my thing. So I have certain recipes that are my go-to in the crock pot. I really don't like to use my crock pot until it's like fall, winter, but people use it year round. But having an idea of what you're going to eat and then making sure you have the ingredients for those meals, if I don't have to think about it except once a week, it's a beautiful thing in our house. And I will also say that we do the same meals on certain days. Tuesdays is tacos, Fridays is pizza. We usually throw in a leftover day. So that's 3 days already taken care of. Only 4 more. It saves me so much time and stress and frustration if I have it planned out. So that we'll also talk a little bit more about. And the one last thing I want to talk about is I'd recently watched a webinar with Whitney Newby from Brighter Day Press, and she talks about raising readers. Here are just a you from her list that would help you and your family, especially if you've come into BookShark and you haven't been literature based. If you have gotten away from read alouds, guilty as charged. I didn't read aloud to my kids once they started reading. Until we started using BookShark, we were at 10 and 6. So there's no shame in it. There's no right or wrong way, but now you've picked a curriculum that you're going to be reading aloud. So to start getting your kids excited about reading and encouraging them to want to read, here are a few tips. The read alouds are going to be great because they don't have to do the work. They just have to listen. Now you have to do the work. And as I've said in the past, read alouds are like not my favorite thing to do, but it is getting them into this rhythm and groove of being able to relax and think about it and picture what's being said instead of having to read it themselves. So read alouds. Use audiobooks so many times. I'll say it again. You'll hear me again and again and again. Audiobooks when available. Now they're making these graphic novel, like no, not graphic novel. That's like a comic book. It's like these audiobooks done in theater production, like different voices, sound effects, almost like the old radio shows. So that's really fun. If you can find some books that we offer on, that we have in our program that you can find on audio that are done that way. It's like theatrical audiobooks. So amazing. Another thing is that she says is helpful in her home is ditching screens on school days. So if that's not going to work for you, I know it wasn't going to work for us. That's just not the type of family that we are. But we did have blocks of time where screens were off limits. So they were put away or put down. I let my kids decide where they were going to be unless it became a habit. And then I would like to let them do it their way until their way doesn't work and then it becomes my way. But if a screen free day or screen free school days is not going to work for you, I mean, that's like the top, right? Like that would be ideal. But maybe just time block out when there's not going to be screens. Because if you let your kids do their 10-minute break with the screen, we all know that games take way more than 10 minutes, or you start getting into something and then you're pulled away and then you're going to have resistance. So think about how that's going to work. But I do like the idea of ditching the screens during a school day, and that will be helpful for distractions for us as adults as well. Model reading for fun. And I don't mean that like you have to read your read alouds and then also read aloud some more at night. Like I would just read aloud at night, the read alouds personally. That's what we did. But model reading for your kids. Maybe you're not an avid reader. Maybe you haven't been in the practice of reading books, even if it's a magazine or a graphic novel. Model for your children that when you have a moment that you want to have some fun for yourself, you're actually picking up a book so that you're showing them. And you guys, fake it till you make it. Maybe that's not your thing. But if we want that to be our children's thing, then we're going to have to show them that we're willing to do it. I'm an avid reader. My mom was an avid reader. All three of my girls are avid readers. So I can honestly say it works. I love reading. All right. Now, then my last thing, and something that she had said, and I kind of will reiterate, just recruit others to help you, however that looks, whether that's reading aloud, somebody on a FaceTime, somebody coming over a couple times a week to help you out, but don't feel like you have to do it all on your own, okay? So your homework. Post how your days are going. I know that we put a post up earlier asking if you had started school. Some of you are kind of sharing what's going on, what things are working really well, where you're kind of having some sticking points. I would love when I put up this bonus homework post that you guys go in there and share also what is going, how are your days going? Where are you finding the most excitement? And then where are you finding like maybe you need some pointers on how to keep things moving along, okay? If you feel like students are wasting time, if it's kind of like they're not listening, I know it should only take an hour and a half, 2 hours, but it's those 20-10 rule, when your time block is over, shut it and put it away. And then when everyone else is done, or when the time of homeschool is done, then pull that back out where they were kind of wasting the time and say, well, now we have to get through this. So kind of show them that the time is set, and that when, and this is for kids that are wasting time. I don't mean for you to like turn off the clock, the alarm goes off. Oh, sorry, you didn't get it done. It's too bad. Like and feeling like, they're la-di-da and not really paying attention. I feel like those time blocks are really helpful for that. And then kind of move it along. And then when they want to be done with school, say, I'd love for you to be done, but we didn't get this finished. So now you're going to have to sit here and get it done before you can go play. So we don't really have homework in homeschool, but if you do feel like you need to motivate your kids to move through things and not be so distracted, depending on your student, that is possibly a helpful tip. Uh, Body break, brain break, let them get up, let them move around, maybe have them just stand up and move around, not go engage in a world of Legos or Barbies like my girls did, because I could not pull them back out. Like, that was an after school play they could do. Those girls would get into that and create their own worlds, and I would not. They were just gone. They were gone for the day. So keeping that in mind, those 10-minute breaks, make them or help your children do things that are able to start and stop. Set the timer so it's not you saying and pulling them out of something that they're really enjoying. That timer goes off and you're like, oh, the time says it's time to get back into it. So just things that might help you move your day along and keep things consistent for you guys. Okay. Protein snacks, sometimes they don't even think about it, but kids' blood sugar gets low. And as adults, we can go a lot longer without food and protein, or maybe you can't. Some of us can. Think about that for your kids, okay? Good protein snacks. If you see them like distracted or laying down or just, kind of look like, have you had any protein today? I had one friend that she homeschooled her kids and she wouldn't even talk to them until they ate hard-boiled eggs. Not my thing, but to each his own. I take that with a grain of salt, but plenty of water, plenty of snacks. I've done a lot of research about nutrition. I'm fascinated by it and the amount of sugar that Americans eat, but that's a whole other soapbox that I will keep to myself as of now. Um, and then, make sure that you did place your student properly into our program. If you feel like sometimes kids say they're bored, but it's not that they're bored, it's that they don't understand, but they don't know how to tell you they don't understand or it's above their head. So you might just have one that's not good at time management, have them do their homework at the end of the day for what they kind of wasted your time trying to get through. If you have kids that you see are disengaged, I would encourage you to go back to our reading assessment, our language arts assessment, the math assessment, and really make sure that were placed properly into the program. We have our advisors available for you guys that you can give us a call and we can walk you through that and give you some tips and tricks as well. So, okay, that's it. You guys, you're doing great. You're going to do great. I'm so excited for those of you who are getting ready to start next week. For those of you who have already started and you've given us just how well it's going and letting us encourage you in the things that you might need some help with. I will be back with Sarah on Wednesday. Gosh, what day is it going to be already? Wednesday, September 10th, in 2 weeks, to do our first monthly live. In the meantime, please reach out. Let us know what you guys need help with. We are here. We are here with encouragement. We're excited for you guys, and we are so grateful that you're here and you're part of this boot camp. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a great Labor Day.